Hello, everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, and of course, Dayne Young, our managing editor, our producer, who will put all of your questions onto the screen there. So if you have something you want to talk about, go ahead and drop it into the comments section. We'll get to it. Please hit like on this video. We're still trying to grow our channel, and we would appreciate you being a follower. It means a lot to us. Of course, we've got a lot to talk about. The minute this thing is over, I'm heading to Indianapolis to meet up with Jed May and Harrison Reno. We're going to have coverage from the NFL Combine for you. Football practice, spring practice, starts on March 17th. We reported back in January that the Bulldogs were going to start practice on March 17th and that G-Day would be April 18th. So we told you a few months ago, so it should be on your calendar already. I know a lot of people out there reporting that it's like new information, but we've had this for quite some time. And I'm asked Coach about what the team's doing between now and then. But first and foremost, we have to give our condolences to our own Anthony Dasher. He's had a tragedy in his family, and we just want Dash and his whole family to know that we love him and we're here for him, and we'll be praying to take care of him and his family. It's just awful. So that's all I'll say about it. It's his story to tell, but we just want our own Anthony Dasher to know that we love him and we're thinking about him. So Dash, you're in our hearts and prayers. Coach, before we get to, I kind of want to break down each guy in the combine and what you expect from him. You did this last year about all the guys that were going, and your, what is it, that prescience, your
intuition,
ability to read the future, prescience about what these guys were going to do was spot on. It was actually kind of creepy how well you nailed what these guys were going to do at the combine. But first and foremost, let's talk about the team. Today's the 24th, so we got 3.5 weeks before practice starts. 3 weeks from today. So talk to me about what's going to happen between now and spring practice, because we see little clips and pictures, but we don't know.
Well, one thing's going to happen. They're going to get spring break, which the kids enjoy, but that'll take care of one of the weeks. But the biggest difference between now and, say, 5 years ago is you could lift weights and run and all that, but you couldn't really do any football-related activities with the players. So now they've got 8 hours a week that they can actually do that, which I think is really good because it's kind of like mini camp where you can really learn the plays and do everything outside or inside if it's cold, and work on the fundamentals that are really beneficial to helping you be a better football team. Because, they're not going to have any Olympic weight trials out there in front of 95,000 people. I'm not going to count the bench press and all that. But so I think that's really good. And I think the other thing you do is build that bond with your players, doing stuff together, and so many new faces, over 30 new players here, counting the transfers and the new enrollees that are going to make up, about a third of your squad. So you got to teach them how to practice, teach them how to meet, everything involved. So it's kind of a learning process for them, and really for the other guys, it's assuming a different role. Instead of maybe being a backup, now you're a starter, even though we've got, I think, 17 starters coming back, which is a lot. So, but what they do, and it started today, really with the team building type deal. Before this was mostly weight training and conditioning, but 6:30 this morning, they're down in the stadium doing the stadium run and just seeing who could really fight through it. And boy, I tell you, Dane and I went to breakfast this morning. It's all I could do to get out and get in the car. It's damn cold. I don't know how they were able to. And, one of the things the fans need to know, either Roddy or Dane and I do a lot of prep for this show. And Dane and I were up there at Chick-fil-A just talking about what we're going to talk about all morning. So, but the reality is,
I know that's such a lie.
Roddy's laughing, and we had a pre-show meeting.
Yeah,
you're always invited.
Y'all had
Roddy.
A pre-show meal. That's different than a meeting.
Yeah, Roddy was over there and getting ready to go out there and eat all that shrimp cocktail, so he couldn't go. But here's the deal.
Do you have a reservation tonight, Roddy? I know you're flying out after this.
I don't need a reservation. I just walk in. They take care of me.
Oh, he'll just go in and say, "Hey, I'm a friend of Andy Reid," or he'll drop a lot of names. But so the biggest deal let's get back to for the fans is, do some running, lifting, and all that. But now actually get these guys out here and line up in some formations, line up in some defensive coverages, do some 7-on-7, and kind of break the rust off of last year. Haven't really practiced since the last game. So I think that's going to really help them get ready for spring. And you got some new faces, and then you got some guys that are coming back that you count on, and you kind of blend your team together and build it. And I think that's part of the most fun of being a coach is seeing how these young guys are going to help you, and also the leadership that you try to build on some guys that we've lost some really good leaders. Like we're going to talk about these 10 guys that are leaving, and among those guys, there's some very good leaders.
So because you mentioned in the past that the Georgia will put its own players through an NFL combine on campus. Like, here's what you need to do. When do they do that?
I usually do that after the actual combine, after this is over with, so they get some metrics. So I usually do that around the same time that they'll have pro day. So the pro day will be one day, and then the next day or the day before they'll do the our own combine. Just so a lot of times, just because there'll be some pro scouts in here who like to watch it.
Okay, because I remember thinking these 10 guys are going, but a lot of them have had 4, I don't want to call it cosplay or reenactments, but they've been through 4 pro day style things at the University of Georgia, or 3 if they're leaving early, and they've actually gotten the chance. It's like, okay, here's how to run the cone drill. Here's how to run the L. Here's how to, hey, don't pop your head up when you're running your 40. Let's talk about form and function on that. Hey, go to that 225 bench and show me what you can do. And here's, don't arch your back. They've been coached up, and we see this each year, Coach, that some of these guys, they show up. And I remember seeing a guy on the bench. He thought he had like 38 reps, but they discounted like 8 of them because his back was coming up off the bench, and they're like, those don't count. And his agent's yelling at the NFL guy, and they're like, look, I'm screaming at him the whole time to keep his back down, and he won't do it. So what the hell am I supposed to do? So some of these guys are going to go in there pretty well prepared.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really evolved over the years, kind of like high school players going to these quarterback camps and all the things, you're so much better, is that let's just say that Dayne's a player and he signs with an agent. Let's forget about what they've learned here at Georgia through the training, but they sign with an agent. And that agent gets them with the right people. Hey, you got to increase your 40. You got to do a better job on the cone drill, or you got to do a better job on your vertical jump or bench press. And then they just spend an inordinate amount of time, like Dylan Bell's in Dallas right now training. And I don't know where these other guys are, but I just heard from Ron Corson, who was out there in Dallas doing something with the soccer people, that he saw Dylan there at the Dallas complex. So the point is, you can get, just like if you're a tennis player and you want to work on your serve, or you're a golfer and you want to work on your short game, or whatever it might be, you go to a place that really works on helping you redefine what you need to do, because this really is a dress rehearsal that you better pass, because you can really fall. I mean, you got no chance if you screw this up of doing as well as you hope you do. Now, you can obviously come back and get drafted and make a team and all, but it's going to cost you a lot, not only financially, but it's going to cost you a lot as far as just the way people perceive you. So the last couple months, these guys have been on a tear working on all this stuff, not only here, but another thing I found out from talking to some of my sources that which I don't have many, but we don't have as many guys maybe going to the combine as probably should be, like a guy like Cash Jones. But what's happened is there's so many players in these other schools that are the lesser schools, whether they be non-power schools or all black universities, whatever it might be, that really have surfaced that they want to get to these combines. And so the better teams like Georgia and Ohio State and all that, some of their lesser guys, maybe that not quite as ranked, don't get to go because they know that they can come and test them at the pro day and see them and these other guys don't have those. So they want to get them in there and get a really good marker on them. So we're getting penalized a little bit for having so many good players because they can't take but so many at the combine. So you'll just see tomorrow. I mean, it starts being on the NFL Network. You'll just see so many of these guys from nothing against Prairie View or whoever, but you'll see a lot of guys out there that you've never heard about that these NFL people want to find that diamond in the rough.
Coach, have you had players that you knew would perform really well at a combine? Maybe they weren't the best game day player, or vice versa, where your best game day player just didn't have the workout situation. How did you handle that on each side of that equation?
It's difficult because you want to help the players out as far as recommending them to the pro people. And, you know, from a standpoint, you don't want to jack the kid around by saying, look, this guy really does play well and practice and test well, but he just can't perform in the game like to that level, or vice versa. For some reason, he doesn't test well, but he makes plays, I mean, over and over at his position. But the thing that you're going to have, and I talk about this in recruiting all the time, if you're making exceptions in your roster on what your levels of what you expect and your criteria, you're probably not going to have a very good roster because you're not going to win beating the teams we got to win against by taking exceptions. Now, once in a while, there's one or two that come along and you bring them in here and they turn out well. But we've got standards and we go by them, and we really are hard and toe the line on it as far as camp and everything like that. That's why I bring back the COVID year hurt us, not being able to test those guys. And we made a lot of mistakes, which people make mistakes. I mean, but when you can't see a guy live or you can't evaluate him live and you're just going based on tape and all that, it's hard. So eyeball tests and testing is great. But that was a good question. But the biggest thing that these kids got to realize is, and I think that's something all of us need to know when we're, you know, people are calling me up all the time. Boy, this kid's got a great attitude, coach, and he's gonna really defy the odds and all that. And could you help him? And I'll say, yeah, the reality is he's probably not going to be able to do it, but sure, I'll talk to him. But what you got to understand is people are competing against you that have better talent, better metrics, everything like that, and they got a good attitude too. So it's just it's really demanding, and the percentile of players that make professional football starting out in high school to that is just minuscule. So it's a business, and these guys, I mean, they're going to test them on all that, but the first thing they got to do is pass the physical. I mean, they go through an unbelievable amount of testing on because can you imagine bringing guys in that have issues and you put all that money in a first or second round draft choice? And we found that out to be pretty much true here. I'm going to throw something else out here for our fans. The portal, some schools are getting some kids that have got some issues and they put money in them, and then they get there and all of a sudden he's got to have his labrum repaired. He's got to have an ankle done or whatever it might be. So Kirby and the coaches and Ron Corson and all that are trying to get a national thing where everybody's stuff needs to be in there. Of course, you got HIPAA laws and all that, but at least you know that somebody's not going to try to pull the wool over your eyes and an agent or a player and all, and you go for a guy. And here's the thing: people say, well, "Why don't you just ask the coach?" Well, the coach is just getting ready to lose a guy. He ain't going to tell you anything about him unless he's your blood brother or something. But like, yeah, going to take him. He can't. He's got a terrible knee. But I'm not. Oh, his knee's great. But that's what I'm saying. And the other point is, high school players that are coming in here, boy, you need to. Part of the project when you get them on official visit is put them through a physical, because you don't want a guy coming in here that's got really serious issues. It's never going to be able to help you right away. But at the same time, if he does need surgery and he's a good player, you bring him in, but you understand that that's on the get-go, that's what's going to happen.
I remember years ago, I think there was a high school kid. He's like, I can't visit. We kept expecting him to visit Georgia. He's like, I can't visit. We're like, well, what's going on? Apparently he had something called, I think it's called a dead shoulder or something. Couldn't raise his arm very high. And he's like, I can't show them this. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's funny you say that. The number one questions that I get from scouts, when NFL scouts reach out to me, it's usually about, well, I say number one, it's two things. One, it's, did this kid ever get in trouble that you know about? So I'm like, oh, no. Or, that was anything swept under the rug? Is there something we need to know about? What's his family life like? But the main question is always, hey, you reported, or your site reported, when he was a sophomore that he had the ankle injury. What happened? Hey, you reported that he missed 3 games because of this. And they're always digging to find out if there is a lingering issue there. Was that hairline fracture that was reported? Was it actually a break? Was it the foot thing? I remember Darnell Washington. They're like that Liz Frank injury. Was that really just a strained ligament, or did he break bones? And I'm like, here's what we reported. But that's still the question I get to this day. And now we are getting it, Coach, to your point about Georgia players that are in the transfer portal. We'll get a question. Hey, this kid never played. Was he injured? We're like, no, he wasn't that good, or there were better guys around him. So that's it. You're right. It has trickled down. I've never gotten in the past questions about transfers, but now we're getting a lot of them.
Yeah, good point. And when I used to recruit players as assistant coach and had my coaches do the same thing, if you got a really good player that everybody can recognize, the first thing you do when you go to the school is you go to the guidance counselor.
Yeah.
And you talk to that guidance counselor and say, hey, let me see his transcript. Let me see the issues he has and all that, because you don't need those kind of, you just can't make it here without the grades. So, and the same place, a lot of places where I coach. Now, some places it really didn't matter. You could get them in with a heartbeat. But the main thing is, from your perspective, talking about their character and all that, these guys do unbelievable, these scouts. So if you just pretend that you're a franchise, you have an area scout that's going to go by there in the spring and start a resume on every young player, every freshman that looks like he's going to be a paper tiger, and you start building on that. Then in the fall, you come back and watch him again. On top of that, you have a guy that's in charge of scouting that goes back and looks at the best players at every school. Not all of them, but just the ones that, and then you have the position coaches before the draft will come out and watch the players and put them through an individual workout. So you basically got 3 grades on every kid. And then you add that to the combine where all the people get to see them. Now you got 4. And then you got the general manager and the head coach. And in the case of Jerry Jones, the owner, making the decision on all that. And I'm sure some of these, but it's a very sophisticated way they grade these guys, and everybody's got a little bit different. And Kirby's, to that extent, is as we've talked about so many times, is a tremendous evaluator, and he's got a system in place. And what we'll do is we have all these young. I'm just going to take a second. We've got like 14 or 15 students on campus that want to be either high school coaches or what, and they let them come over there. And they're all in one group, and they work at looking at tape. They teach them how to look at tape, but basically they just kind of scan over everybody, so all the assistants aren't looking. And then they'll show the tape to our people like Ellis and the people over top of them. And then once they get them, then they'll take them to the position coach and look at them, then the coordinator, and then they got to go see the man. And Kirby's going to give his stamp, and then say, hey, let's get this kid in camp. He's in the 9th grade. Let's get him here. And so that's the way it works. But there's a real good system in place here with the way we evaluate players.
Roddy, I did want to ask you just about being at the combine, because you've covered this a lot. When someone is making a move and how the buzz gets around the place, because there's that whole group of NFL coaches and teams and staffs that Coach is referring to. Then there's all this media side. And at night, yes, they're having the shrimp cocktails at St. Elmo's. That's what they're doing. And they're chatting about what they've seen. But when a Chris Connolly has the performance that he had and everyone saw him jump out of the building, how does that word reverberate around there? What does the buzz feel like in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis is about 900 media writers, all pretending they know anything about football, myself included. And so anybody who puts up a metric like that, it's almost like, see, I knew he was good. I told you he was going to be good. Or that metric is so stupid, it doesn't matter. It is hot take central. So there are a bunch of people who are desperate to put out hot takes, desperate to put out their opinions, desperate to act like they know what the hell's going on and what the NFL is looking for and what the scouts are looking for, and pretending that they have great connections, that the minute somebody does something big like that, it is the oxygen to that hot take fire. So it spreads because it's not opinion. Guy runs a 4.29. It's like, okay, here's a fact, so that's something that is unassailable other than, well, CJ Allen is probably the best linebacker in coverage. Well, that's really hard to substantiate. It's like, wow, there's times he wasn't, So in other words, when it's opinion going back and forth, we all argue opinions. But when you actually have something substantial, like a guy who, does 38 reps on the 225 or has the entire room just rolling. I remember Devontae Wyatt, we hardly ever got to speak to him. When he got up to the podium, he had all these jaded reporters, basically snot bubbles coming out of their nose. They were laughing so hard because the guy has such a funny personality. Jordan Davis held court, Roquan Smith did as well. And when you get guys that do that, they're like, wow, that guy's really impressive. And, some will take credit that they knew. Some will say he's the most, they get to fill it on their top 5 performers list. When anybody ever does something well, it just spreads because they need the content and they need validation for their opinion. So anyway, speaking of validations for opinions, we're going to start with Coach.
Good example. 2 examples. Jared Wilson last year running that sub 540. Everybody talked about it. Here's a young guy coming out. It's only played 1 year. I mean, that really propelled him on up there. And then when Darnell Washington hit that sled and looked like he's getting ready to lift it through the roof, I mean, here's a guy 6'8" doing that, 6'7". So those are little things like you're talking about. But let's go ahead.
If anybody didn't think Darnell Washington could be an NFL pro, one, they'd be too scared to tell him. That'd be one thing. But then 2, they just didn't watch what he was doing at Georgia because it was just such a mismatch for 3 years.
Yeah. Remember in that same combine, before he did that, he had the one-handed catch going out of bounds. It's like, damn, soft hands for a guy that size who everyone's thinking maybe he should be a left tackle. Like, no, not with those paws.
Still don't use him enough there at Pittsburgh, I don't think.
I know. It ticks me off. All right, Coach, let's kind of go through the guys and you give me 1 or 2 sentences on each one and how you think they will perform or your thoughts on each one. First up tomorrow will be CJ Allen. He's going to be with the inside linebackers. How do you think he'll do, or what should the scouts be looking for in CJ Allen?
Well, he's going to test well. His measurables are really there. I think the biggest deal will be, can he be an every down linebacker like they want up there? I think he can. By that, I mean third down. I know he can first and second, but
right.
He's a good pass cover guy, but not a great one. But I think he can improve that. But the intangibles there, the leadership, the character, everything about him, and the fact that he's been such a part of a winning program, he's a can't miss pro.
Then after him, we'll get to see Georgia's defensive lineman up there, Christian Miller, Mr. Funny. He and Brett Thorson will be going at the same time, which is kind of annoying. We have to be split up. That's why we take more than one person. But 2 of the funniest guys will be up there. So give me your thoughts on Christian Miller and then Brett Thorson.
Well, Christian is a dynamic defensive player that really, I think everything's ahead of him. You're going to see a lot of the same qualities that Devontae Wyatt has shown for, moving on up there. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle as a younger player. But the more he's around those people and the more he tests, the higher he's going to go because he's just an explosive athlete. As far as Thorson, I just think he's the ultimate punter that, you just don't use a high draft choice for running backs and punters and things like that. But whoever gets him, I mean, he's going to be a 10-year pro. I mean, he never misses. He's just a fantastic punter.
All right. On Thursday, we'll get to see Dayne Everett, who came back for a senior season, had a good year for Georgia. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but way more good than whenever he had a miss there. And give me your thoughts on Dayne Everett and how he'll do.
He's just a real solid player that knows how to play coverage. He's not that great at one-on-one sometimes, but other times he is. But, he doesn't make the big mistake, though. He's always around the ball, very good tackler and good special teams guy. I look for him to go late second, early third round.
Okay. What about Oscar Delp? That one,
I think
I like Oscar Delp, but I have a hard time projecting him how he will fare.
I really think he's probably the biggest sleeper of all these guys to me, just from the standpoint we've had so many tight ends that he had to be around, and Brock Bowers and Washington Shadow, and then we didn't use the tight ends that much this year, but he knows how to do a lot of different things as a tight end. He can motion, he can line up wide, he can block. He's good hands, but he's got tremendous quickness and speed for a guy his size. So he's going against some really good guys. So that guy from Oregon just got unbelievable stats. Yeah. And but I would think that Delp's hands are better. That guy's had some drops, but I think he's a guy that's going to help his stature a lot. And the one thing that they got, if Hartley is going to tell him what he thinks, and he's kind of the man on tight ends, assistant coach in the country, and if he gives him his stamp of approval, that's worth 1 or 2 rounds to a guy.
Yeah, he is the tight end whisperer. On Friday, there will be the quarterbacks, which will be interesting. Haynes King, Carson Beck, Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, they'll all be there. But in the afternoon, I think we get the wide receivers. So we'll get Colby Young from Georgia, Dylan Bell, and Zachariah Branch. Take those in any order you want.
Well, Branch is going to go the highest just because of his explosiveness, and he can fit some kind of role for a team as being a slot receiver, as a guy that can just do so much with the ball, kind of like McConkey did. And I think McConkey, somebody wrote about the combine help McConkey also his pro day here. McConkey did unbelievable in the pro day as far as his ability to run the cone drill and catch the ball. But I think more than anything with Zachariah, just he has the element of a kick returner and so many other things. Plus, he's so good with the ball under his hand. So I would say he's going to go anywhere from 42 to 60 in that range as far as whatever round that would go. As far as Colby Young, to me, the big unknown there is, his injury, but he did show a lot of just unbelievable unselfishness coming back and trying to help us win with the chance of getting hurt again. But he's a very explosive guy that can block and is a big receiver. Somebody's going to pick him up. It's just got to be the want to. You got to have that need, and he could be somebody just out of the blue, somebody picks up. But if all of a sudden his metrics are really good and he runs faster than maybe what we think, he could go a little higher than maybe 4th round. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it. And then I think Dylan Bell, every team's got to explore the fact that maybe look at him as a 3rd down back too, because he can run. And he was a running back in high school. They want to be a receiver. And that's going to be to his advantage because he can show. They'll probably, when he comes for the testing, they'll probably let him show some backfield routes. So, but he's a good special teams guy and tremendous student, graduated very early. But whether his speed's going to be enough for these guys to just jump up when you got some of these guys just running so fast, that's going to be the one thing with him.
The last two guys are both offensive linemen, and I want to get your thoughts on Monroe Freeling. He leaves a year early. I've seen projected first round. I've seen projected second round. You told us how good he was going to be many years ago, and sure enough, now's his chance to show it at the NFL Combine. Give me your thoughts on Monroe Freeling.
Well, one thing about him is you just can't manufacture those kind of attributes in any lineman. I mean, the long arms, the quick feet, the toughness. He played hurt, playing in a system where he had to pass protect instead of running RPOs. He knows how to run all the schemes. He's very smart. And sometimes we know too much about him. Hey, well, he got beat against Notre Dame on the one play, but good Lord, how many plays was he in there over the last 3 years? So I would say once he goes up there and tests and they see him and all these O-line coaches start looking at him and see the fact that we've had so many tackles make it. And Stacy and Kirby will be telling about it. I would say he's projected and everything. If he's not in the first round, I won't be shocked. I probably won't be on the show next week.
The note with him that I always think NFL will really like is Ernest Green was a good left tackle at Georgia. Injuries happen and Monroe takes that spot, and then he kept that spot. So that shows me in practice that's a hard position to win as left tackle, and for him to do it over an established guy, that says a lot about his competition and his competitive makeup.
Yeah, I remember when we were going after him, Kirby was saying, he's from down in South Carolina. And he's saying, this guy, he said, if he develops like he's supposed to, he's going to be one of our better tackles.
The last guy, the combine will end with offensive lineman. It'll be Micah Morris from Georgia, who gets to answer all the questions. One of the strongest guys on the team. Give me your thoughts on Micah and how he projects.
Yeah, when they do the bench press, they'll have a few wows in there because that guy's stronger than Ajax. I mean, he's one of the strongest guys to ever play at Georgia. I'm talking about going back when he didn't even have Sanford Stadium. I mean, this guy is strong. Has developed a little bit better stamina. A lot of times over the last couple of years before he started playing more, he had a tendency to not really push himself, but got good feet, intelligent, good kid. And he's going to help his draft stock I promise you, at the combine. They'll see his quickness to go with his strength. And I bet he runs really well too.
I bet he does. We mentioned that on Friday, all the quarterbacks will be out there. Carson Beck will be one of them. And we've got to talk about Kirby Smart and Mario Cristobal.
Do you think Carson's going to throw?
I doubt it. I don't know. We'll find out. But first, we got to take a quick commercial break and mention some of our sponsors. And I want to start with our friends over at Darden's Delights. It is still February for 4 more days. And the promotion that they have running at Darden's Delights is if you use promo code UGASports, you get 25% off of your order. Now, you need to go ahead and do that today. It's your last chance. So jump on the Darden's Delights websites. Check them out. Go ahead and put a bunch of stuff. They come frozen, so it's not like, well, I don't want pie this weekend. It's okay. It's okay. They come frozen. Don't worry about it. So get your Smack Your Lips Lemon Chest pie. Get your birthday cake pie. Get the Holy Moly Peanut Butter Cup pie, or your Cha-Cha Chicken, or Quiche Lorraine, or the Lean and Green and Spinach, Tomato, and Crustless Quiche pie. Just go ahead and get those. Put them in your cart. Get 25% off. You have to use promo code UGA Sports. And just remember that a good slice, not to use a pun, but a slice of the proceeds go to help out folks with developmental disabilities like Ms. Darden herself. It's Betsy and David Glass are the founders of Darden's Delights, and they are 2 UGA grads, and their other daughter is actually a freshman at UGA. So this is a Georgia family company. Also want to mention our friends at Athens Ford, because when we talk about people who are big Georgia fans, of course, the folks at Athens Ford are as well. And they have great deals on the 2025 Ford Bronco. It's $8,000 off. The 2026 Ford Explorer is $7,000 off. The Ford 2025 F-150, best-selling truck in America, $16,000 off. So there's always deals like that going on at Athens Ford, and you need to check them out. The folks out there have a fantastic service bay. They can do all the custom stuff. If you get that F-150 and you want all the bells and whistles on it, their customization lab is ridiculous. They can get you anything you want. So check out Athens Ford, and you will be very happy that you did so. And last but not least, we need to talk. We have a commercial from our friends over at Atlanta Dental Implants, Dr. Skylar Holcomb, one of the biggest Georgia fans that you will ever meet. And they take care of your teeth. So check out that.
Having the dental implants, I was in pain and there were like loose teeth, and it's kind of a little bit of a complex talking or smiling. Having periodontal disease and trying to find a good place like this place to get it done is very difficult. I'm looking at the website and I'm like, wow, they've got their prices like right there. Top arch replacement, bottom arch replacement, whatever you need. Highly recommend it. ATL Dental Implants. I'm learning to smile again, let's just say.
Again, a fantastic bunch of folks over Atlanta Dental Implants, and we appreciate them.
Roddy, I do want to quickly mention, as I throw up the Athens Ford on here, Georgia's men's basketball with the win over Texas, I think puts them right back in the tournament hunt. And that's a big spot to be in. So after the Kentucky win and Texas, it was looking pretty rough for them in early part of February. And now they look to be comfortably dancing again. I think Georgia men and women's basketball in really good shape heading into March.
They're different with Jeremiah Wilkinson back. I mean, I get it. Yes. Hey, your leading scorer's out, so they drop a couple games that maybe they could have won. I get that. But it's not just that, he was I get 19 points a game and that he's back and they score more and they start winning. Defensively, they look different. Transitionally, they look different. I'm no basketball expert. People know this. I've been covering it since '93. But I mean, just the feel of the entire team when he's out there, it's big. So yeah, 2 huge wins, 4 games left. Sit at 7-7. It's been a long time since they finished SEC play at even now. So you basically being split these last 4. Like I said, they're definitely comfortable in there. I don't know anybody that has them not in the tournament. So
yeah, it's just like, what situation do you put yourself in to have a favorable matchup once you do get to that tournament? Because I think we've seen the good and bad from Georgia. They can beat a lot of teams. They also have struggled against teams that they shouldn't have lost to early in the season. But that it says a lot about Mike White's team for them to have turned that around, because there was a moment there I did not think they would be making the tournament, or that they would need like a deep run in the SEC tournament to make that happen.
Yeah, no, that went. We can talk about beating Texas. Remember, Texas outscored them 57-30 in the second half out in Austin. It was brutal. It's the biggest second half collapse we've seen in a long time. But Georgia goes into with the lead at home and then beats them in the second half. You're like, okay, that turned it around. But that win at Kentucky, they've only won at Kentucky 6 times in their freaking career. So that was definitely a big one. And one of those was vacated. So they've got 5 wins in Lexington. But that puts you on the map. And you mentioned some of those ugly losses they had earlier in the season. I think one of them was the Ole Miss one. There was one just bad.
Ole Miss one in Athens.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? You're 2-7 and you beat Georgia at home. It's just brutal. But they also have some big wins on the road that they didn't get until late. Big SEC wins on the road. They started doing this right off the bat. First week of the season, they had one. Versus, waiting till damn near the end last year. So definitely a better team than last year. But you're right. For a while there, it looked very, very sketchy. So
I know we're waiting for Coach to return. I want to talk about Kirby Smart kind of letting his hair down, having some fun last night. We don't get to see this side of Kirby a whole lot, although we're told that in the group text with the other SEC coaches, this is there. They're like, he's willing to take jabs and punch, especially with Lane Kiffin. We saw this with Mario Cristobal. So a lot of this Saban assistant crew jabbing with each other. And I wanted to get Coach's reaction to this, and he'll rejoin us in a moment. But we do have a story on UGASports now that recaps what was said at this awards event. So this was the Steve Spurrier Awards in Florida last night, and Judd May recapped that sitting on UGAsports.com. You've heard this before, right, too, that Kirby Smart, this is his like natural sense of humor. It's just the CEO Kirby Smart. We don't get to see that very often.
No, the people who are close to him, if you talk to like a Kevin Kisner or haven't talked to Dax Langley since he was a player, but I've heard Dax say it to other people. They're like, I mean, hell, you've seen Kirby at practice. He's a bit foul mouthed, but he loves to bust on you because he's bright. I've always said this about Kirby Smart. I'm like, if he wasn't a coach, if he went into finance, he'd be a CEO. If he went into engineering, he'd build space shuttles or whatever. He's going to be good at whatever he did. But a lot of it's just clever. So he is great with the locker room repartee to rip on guys. So he gets up there and he starts talking about whose 50th wedding anniversary for Ellis Robinson, because the whole point was Ellis Robinson was given an award by the Football Writers Association of America for the Defensive Freshman of the Year, and Ellis's parents were there. Remember, he's from Miami, and Kirby's talking about whose 50th wedding anniversary was better, and he says, Mario Cristobal sitting right behind them, and if it had been up to him, those parties would have been a lot nicer because he would have paid a lot more NIL money. It came down to the two of us, And I don't like Mario being real close to them right now because Ellis has got another year, He said he's got a year left. So be careful around Mario. Sometimes he likes to take your players, if you know what I mean. Like, damn.
Yeah, get right there with the NIL jazz. But Mario comes right back at him with some Carson Beck chatter. He's sitting in the room as well. And all this is happening while the godfather of this kind of smack talk in the SEC, Steve Spurrier, the whole thing is generated around him. And so we were a Lane Kiffin away from just kind of like having the full crew there of the SEC jabs.
Well, Lane Kiffin came up because Mario did the same joke about Kirby, too many carbs and needing some protein shakes. I'm like, so a fat joke, which is nice. And then Cristobal gets up there and says, hey, it's nice that Kirby Smart could be here. And, right. We watch a player like Carson Beck and you can see what he can do with great coaching. And the place just lost their damn mind, So just threw Carson Beck in his face and said, look how well, we were right there in the national championship. Yeah, Carson Beck with good coaching can play for a title. I was like, that was fun.
I mean, Kirby can talk about the 2 rings that Carson has and where those came from.
Well, he actually did, because Kirby comes back with the, hey, I'm glad we're here with Steve Spurrier. By the way, how many conference titles did he win versus you, Mario? Because remember, they didn't win. They didn't win the ACC. They were on the outside looking in just to get into the playoffs, because a lot of people are like, well, it's going to be Notre Dame. It's not going to be Miami. And Kirby just zings him with the, I'm glad Steve Spurrier's here's cracking it up. But and then, of course, Mario busts on Florida because they beat Florida. So it's just it was a round robin of zingers and ass kicking, and I was just rolling.
The one that was over the line for me was when Mario says, we have more than one restaurant in Miami. And so it's a little bit different than Athens. And I'm like, Mario, do not come at the dining scene in Athens, because there is some significant, like some of my favorite restaurants in the state and this region are right here in Athens. And one of the cool parts of a college town like Athens is that these places emerge and they're different. And, it stinks that Weaver D's is hanging it up, but Zizi and Simone's is an excellent restaurant. That wasn't there when I was in college, but like there's some great stuff that pops up in Athens all the time.
Yeah, but it's all been downhill since they closed UD's, so I'm done on this Athens scene. No, there are some good places, but I will tell you, what was it last week? 2 weeks ago, I was in Miami on Sunday. My birthday was Monday, and I wanted one thing. And I actually had a late flight out Monday afternoon. So I went downtown to have my birthday lunch, and I went to Joe's Stone Crab, one of Coach's favorite places in the whole world. And the regular restaurant was closed. They just had this like Joe's to go thing. I'm like, what the hell? I'm here for one thing. So Mario can make fun of the food scene, but I'm like, hey, how about you guys have something open before 4:00? So I was very disappointed in that, and I'm like, yeah, we're not going to be friends, Mario. So.
Well, I think this is a great look for Kirby Smart to have fun with this, because a lot of times it is corporate CEO Kirby Smart. They would never listen to my advice over at athletics, because Georgia historically, we talk about this all the time here on campus, just where I work, of kind of whatever adjectives describe like what your brand is. And Georgia as an institution and university side, also the athletic side, is usually a little bit more buttoned up, more polished, traditional state power. And I like the version of Georgia that gets to be like a little messy, show the personality, show the fun. And I've always been slightly jealous that Ole Miss and LSU tend to do that very well. I don't know that Ole Miss is doing it quite as well since Lane Kiffin left them, but historically, like those schools, sometimes Arkansas, they can get in the mix with that and be okay. It's not being unprofessional, but just having fun. And I don't know that Georgia is always the best at having fun. So when I see that, it makes me very happy, and I wish athletics would lean into that a bit more.
Well, that was the whole thing. We, like I mentioned earlier in the show, we never got to speak to Devontae Wyatt. He is hilarious. He's brilliant. They should have had him out there front and center, but they would actually went and picked an offensive lineman who would just say the most bland, boring crap, the most just slop. I mean, it felt like they were AI robots, and that's who they put out in front of the media. They don't put out the most charismatic guys. We get Brett Thorson occasionally, and he's funny, and some of the others, but no offense, Oscar Delp is not exactly in Lawson Luckier. They're great representatives of the university, but it's all, oh God, London Humphreys. London is smart. He went to Vandy, and all three of them come out and say the most vanilla, boring things and the cliches. And I'm like, come on, guys, you're killing me. And it almost makes them look bad because I'm like, I know you're smarter than this. And you're so smart that you can actually make yourself sound boring as hell. And Georgia won't lean into it. Kirby cuts down on, I mean, we used to have 6 to 8 guys after a practice multiple times a week. Now we're down to 2 on Monday and 2 on Tuesday. We're not being able to tell stories. And there are a lot of great stories out there. Well, the story we got to write today was the arrest details of 2 players. Now, what if we'd actually gotten to speak to a couple guys earlier today? We'd have different stories on the front page now, wouldn't we? So I'm with you. They should lean into it. Let Kirby be Kirby. You don't need to be all buttoned up and corporate. It is college football. It should be fun. And you've got, every time we spoke to Todd Monken, we would be crying. He's so hilarious. Let Todd Hartley get out there and do his thing. Let Mike Bobo talk. Let this new defensive ends coach, this new outside linebacker coach get in front of everybody. I mean, Tony Ball was a riot. He was fun to talk to. So my point is there's a lot of stories and a lot of comedy that could come out of it. And when Kirby Smart's unguarded, he gives that zinger to Mario Cristobal saying, look, you're laughing. I got Steve Spurrier over here who won more ACC titles at Duke than you've done at Miami. That's a hell of a shot. I love it. Let them do it. Let them shoot from the hip. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to give somebody bulletin board material? Kirby's the one who says bulletin board material doesn't matter. So, and if anything, it's good for the sport because if Georgia and Miami face off again, after all the recruiting battles they had, we have a story on the front page right now about Amari Stevens, a wide receiver committed to Miami. I spoke to him, and he's raved about Georgia and how he's always been a Georgia fan since he watched Sony Michel come up to Georgia. They're going to be battling over him. They're going to be battling over 3 or 4 other wide receivers from that area and cornerbacks and offensive linemen, Mike Matthews. Point is, it's fun when these guys have these barbs and then later on get to face each other. It's definitely worth it.
I will give Kirby credit. I think that the longer that he's doing this, the more that he tends to Foster saying that Kirby, that Florida's a basketball school.
Kirby said Florida's a basketball coach. Yeah. And he made fun of Summerall too.
The longer that Kirby's doing this, which is on a decade now at Georgia, I do think that he is more, I don't say relaxed because he's as intense as he ever is, but these moments happen more often in the last couple of years than they did the first 5 when he's trying to get his footing under him. Combine that with all of the buddies from his assistant coaching life are now leading their own programs in other places. So I do think these internal group texts are like leading to these kinds of situations where you get this in these spots. And it's good that Spurrier can help foster that. And, I think it's probably been good for Kirby that Nick Saban is on College Game Day as a part of the media side, because Saban is also way more relaxed to tell these stories because that's his job in this.
Yeah, and so you have that ability to I don't think you don't have to give us inside baseball stuff, but just remember it's a sport. It's a game. You're the coach of a team that's playing a game. I know it's, and here's the thing. They're like, well, look at the millions of dollars. I'm like, well, at that point, it should be even more fun. And this is where I actually do appreciate Lane Kiffin. I'm not a big fan of his. He's like, if you're being paid $13 million, $10 million, $800,000, if one of us was being paid $800,000, I'd be more like Sam Pittman just shooting from the hip. What can you do to me? I'm untouchable. I've got a great job. And then with the head coaches, if they get fired, the buyouts, you documented this. These guys, Jimbo Fisher getting what, $62 million or something to go sit on a beach. Say whatever the hell you want. Have fun with it. Make fun of the other team. If you lose, who cares? It's a game. Crack a few jokes, crack a few beers, have a good time. That's what it should be.
It's a game and an enterprise. It's all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did have one question. It was more meant for Coach. I can say it here, and we'll give it our best go to. Parkus on UGASports.com said, with the need for incoming players to get ready faster, what has changed in bringing up them to speed in the first year? Does that need to change the evaluation process in high school recruiting, or do you look for more high IQ kids in the recruiting process? And I think Coach touched on that earlier of, in this time of year, you have to get these new guys, whether they're transfers or whether they're freshmen, you have to get them ready to play faster because rosters tend to be younger. But I also just think the whole enterprise is moving that way, Roddy, to where in the recruiting process, guys are having to be more mature faster because they're also business people and they're having to handle that side of it. Now, they get some bad advice for some folks. It can actually ruin their career. But if they hit that part right, maybe they're more primed to be able to handle everything that the college life brings at them as compared to what high school did.
Yeah, and they're not changing their evaluations on the, because Georgia actually has a height, I don't want to say requirement, but they have a height target. Hey, for our quarterbacks, we want them to be 6'1" and above. We'll start there. For our defensive linemen, because I spoke to a defensive lineman who looked fantastic. I'm like, this kid loved Georgia. Basically found out if he had an offer, he would commit on the spot. I'm like, hey, what's your current height and weight? He's like 6'1", 305. I'm like,
yep.
It ain't gonna happen. I didn't say that, but that's what I'm thinking in my head, because they're like, wait, those guys are going to be 6'3", 6'4". They want their wide receivers, the extra receivers got its markings and such. So the physical traits and speed and stuff like that right off the bat is, they, like Coach said earlier, they've got their requirements. The cognition ability, the football experience and stuff like that, yes, you're right, because it has advanced. But the good thing is the guys are coming into college much more prepared than they ever were. They do so much in the offseason. So many of them have coaches, and trainers who are getting them prepared. Because think about it, it's easier to count how many of Georgia's last signing class did not enroll early versus the ones that did. It used to be, hey, here's the 5 guys that enrolled early. Here's the 6 guys. Here's the 10 guys. Now here's the 3 that did not. So by spring, we're already hearing about them moving up. I mean, look at how many, even with a pretty good team last year, you had Ethan Barbour, who started the first game. You had Dontrell Glover played early. Juan Gaston started his first game. There's a lot of guys that got in early. So yeah, they are thrown into the fire, but they're coming in better prepared than they have been 5, 10, 15 years ago. So
well, and it's at the lower level too. I remember the first time that I was seeing 7-on-7 tournaments be a big deal for the high school programs, and it was like, okay, they're competing more year round. This is not just a fall situation and a summer workout. And then they were
doing 7-on-7 in January.
Right, but it used to only be that there were these special quarterback camps, that was kind of the first, and now it's like, well, no, there's a tight end camp and there's a corner camp.
There's lineman camps everywhere, baby. Yeah.
Right, everything's a little bit more specialized, and some coaches would say that's not the greatest thing in the world. That actually need to be more versatile than specific, but
it's true.
I think that's where we're going to wrap for the day, because you have to catch a flight and go.
I do. So I keep looking down at my phone. People think I'm not. It's not that I'm not paying attention. It's just I got to get to the airport here. So we're going to have to wrap. All right, folks. We appreciate all of you joining us, and we will see you next week. Y'all take care.